Hello everyone, I am Sharad and I have Ayush along with me from Economics Club who will be going to take this session. And we have Ronak as our guest speaker. He interned at BOFA and he is a student of IIM Calcutta. So I will let Ronak introduce himself.
Yeah, hello everyone. I am Ronak Arora. I am currently a student of IIM Calcutta. Currently not in Calcutta though. Uh, Background, I come from Rohtak. It's a city near Delhi. And for my undergraduate, I went to BITS Pilani. My major was mechanical engineering, and I also did a minor in finance. I graduated in 2019. Then I worked for 2 years at JP Morgan. Then I came to IIM Calcutta, and the summer that just passed, I interned at Bank of America, Hong Kong office, albeit virtually though. Yeah. And I also currently I'm not in Calcutta. I am also a SIM student, SIMS MIM. So my exchange school is Vienna University of Economics and Business. So I'm currently in Vienna.
Thanks, Ronak. Can you talk a bit about your interview experience, including questions?
Yeah, for Bank of America specifically, I got informed that I have the shortlist for both Hong Kong and India markets role, as you do on Superset. And then for quite a while, there was absolutely no movement, no update on what is to be done. We had some, like I had shortlist for other Bank of America roles as well. So we had to do some online tasks regarding it. They gave us a portal. We registered ourselves, basic biodata stuff, and then there were some video questions. So those were personal questions, like very typical personal questions everyone must have encountered in their prep. How would you deal with this situation? How will you deal with that situation? What has happened in your past? Give an example where you had to raise a dispute between some teammates and questions like that. And you answer those questions on video. You can do, I think, retakes also. I'm not sure. And after that, there was a coding test. So the coding test was optional, as they said, and I believe it really was. So there were two questions, very basic coding questions, and first one I would say very basic, and I am not a coding expert by any means. I know barely anything, and I had learned some Python, so I just answered the first one. Second one I couldn't solve. There was a time limit. I couldn't solve, so I said, check it anyways. Uh, it's optional. So I was very sure about the first one. The second one, I did some stuff, but it wasn't working, so I left it there half written. So that was the pre stuff that you could do on your own time. They gave the portal and everything, and that was once that happened, then again there was a lot of time where nothing was happening. And then I got a call from my buddy, uh, who was at my time when I was PGP1, PGP3, so 56th batch, who had joined Bank of America in Hong Kong full time. So he interned in Hong Kong, but he joined Singapore full time. So that call was again a very intro call. I told him about myself, what sort of roles I have worked in the past, what my exposure to finance is. A couple of key questions he asked was, "Are you preparing?" Now, this is a key concern that everyone almost applies for every company, at least the good ones. And by the time shortlists come, people already have made up their minds either on consulting, either on finance, and within finance also on IB or markets or something else, etc. So that was just a tester on, am I preparing? Am I interested? And I did, of course, I answered yes. I did say I was preparing this and that. Uh, and have I been following the market? So I gave one or two anecdotes that I knew were happening. And uh, so a lot of the discussion was also based on my work experience because it was at a relevant firm. So we discussed quite in detail on what sort of things I worked on. I was actually in the middle office where I wasn't trading myself, but I was directly in touch with traders. So whenever they would trade at the end of the week, I would make their reports, I would do their analysis. So they would just do the trading, everything else, reporting and analysis, would come down to middle office, which I was a part of, and I would undertake that. So I had some exposure to what sort of trades were happening, but I did not have exposure to like how a trade was conceived. I only came into play after a trade was done. So those things more in detail we discussed, and he sort of got a positive hint out of that. I thought so, and he told me what to prepare for the director round. So he told me that of course I would be asked on uh, have I been following the markets, some key events, and there would be cross questioning. So prepare for that. So he gave me a few pointers to prepare for that as well, and the call went well. And the call ended, and again for a few days silence. Then one email comes that is from the director uh, in Hong Kong. So I wouldn't reveal his identity, of course, but he was an IIM Ahmedabad alumnus who had gone via the same program, interned at Hong Kong office, I think, and then converted full time, had been there for like 10 to 12 years. Uh, and working in Hong Kong, I think he worked in India also for a little while. Not sure of the trajectory, but directly from Miami to Bank of America. And he asked me for a time slot, which would be a preferred time slot. Now, I didn't want to be picky that like call me this day at 9 p.m. or anything to a recruiter. So I gave a general time slot like my classes end at 4 p.m. every day, every weekday. So call me after 4 p.m. or something like that. I said anytime after 4 p.m. to 12 in the night. So one day I did get a call. I knew to pick up that call. That is very important that you pick up all the calls, especially the international calls, because it's not always possible to immediately call them back. And I picked up a call. We had a long discussion again, same things. So a very lengthy discussion on my CV because the work experience was relevant. And then uh, the same question: have you been following the markets? Have you been following the trends? Yeah, so I gave positive answers to everything, and uh, the call ended there. Then I had a similar call with the India director. We had a few calls back and forth. All of these things were discussed, and then they made me solve one question, which was again rather simple. It was a roll and carry question, but at the time I did not remember what roll and carry, how to calculate them. So I actually kind of solved it like a case. Can you tell me what this is? Can you tell me what that is? And beyond that, some basic financial concepts. And I came up with an answer. It was slightly wrong. He asked me to come up with the right answer, find out what the mistake is. I couldn't for a while, and I was still trying to figure it out. And meanwhile, he interrupts me. He's like, "Yeah, I don't have any more time. You have the offer anyway, so congratulations." And we ended the call there. And this happened, I think, the day before the so of course, the INEC I think is a Sunday, so he didn't want to work uh, over the weekend. So either it was Friday night or Saturday night. He ended it there, and that was the offer. Then there was an like a formality HR round because I had the HR round, and there she just told me what the compensation was. We'll bring you out to Hong Kong, which didn't happen. We'll help you with the visa. I got the visa, but not of you. So that's how the entire process went. I'm not sure if the initial question was only on buddy calls or on all calls, but that's all. They were sort of in a sequential order.
Yeah, that was nice. So, Ronald, you said about some events. So, given the fact that you were in markets, how important do you think current affairs or macro environment is for markets? And how did you prep for that?
So I think it is very, very important, but you don't have to be exhaustive. So this is the advice I got. It worked, and I'll pass it on that you don't have to know everything. You can pick up one or two events. You can, even if you haven't been following, just Google what has been happening. Pick any. any major movement that catches your eye and that you like, any major stock market spike either way up or down, some policy changes which markets people love to talk about, like uh, these days almost all of the countries are having interest rate hikes. So those are really major events on a trading floor. So you can probably pick one of those up, but that might become too common now also. So have a few events ready, or maybe you can, like an IBU do sector prep. It wouldn't take that much time. Just pick up an asset. Like I remember someone uh, recommended me that they prepared on gold. They had a good outlook. This it would go up, it would go down. But it isn't the most traded one, but you can pick something like the USD INR exchange rate, and you can then you go and learn what factors affect this interest rate, every end to end, what factors affected. Then you can look how those factors have been changing in the last few months, how the interest rate has been changing in the last few months, and you build a complete understanding around that and on how that works, because that's what you would be eventually cross questioned on. And then what really hits the market, if you make an outlook also, that I think by the end of the year, by the end of the month, in the next 20 trading days or whatever, USD dollar rate would rise by 5%, or it will go above 80, or uh, some sort of a view you can build up. Of course, there is never a right answer. If there was a right answer to this outlook, you can just make money and there's no point going to a firm. So what they're looking for is what your thinking is. So USD and either it can go up or down, or maybe stay constant. You tell them reasons that uh, in October there is a RBI meeting where I think they would raise the rates by this much, and that would affect it that way. Inflation numbers are supposed to come out. That's my estimate on inflation that might affect it that way. Dollar has been very strong. Like market demand for dollar has been strong against even euro or Chinese yuan, and based on that, dollar is going to get stronger no matter what India does. So you can in that way build views which are backed. So they might ask about any of these questions. How does inflation affect it? How does trade affect it? How do interest rates affect it? So these are the type of cross questions you can already prepare for, because these are standard. These would be asked, and if you prepare end to end, then you're done. Then that is basically what you would be normally asked, and they don't expect you to go much deeper than that. Uh, Many people do prepare much more, but actually, if you're on the trading floor, they're not going that deep every day. They have a few key indicators open on the screen all at all times, and they actively know what the trade flow is, and they'll trade accordingly. So that is more or less it. If you want to go further, you can learn all these instruments that there are, that there you can learn about how options work, and you can probably suggest, because my view is this, maybe this kind of an option strategy works. Now doing that is a risky move, because once you enter options is such a broad term, a broad field where they can question you on any of the nitty gritties, like how would the gamma vary during this trade, or oh, volatility issues, option pricing, how it should be, all those things they can go further in. And of course, basics of option pricing you would know, but if you suggest some specific option, then you need to know, is it being traded on NSE? What sort of prices are there? Then you're basically setting yourself up to go deeper. So that depends on you what level of prep you are doing. So just an understanding of macros is one, absolutely necessary if you're serious about it, and two, can get you a long way. And if you I want to go absolutely over and above, you can dabble with the asset classes, and don't spend too much time on it if you don't have the time, because it's very close to the placement week, and just focus on what's necessary, and don't risk things you half know, because they are very good at figuring out when you're saying low things. So stick to what you know, if you venture into something, make sure you are prepared enough to handle cross questions. That's it.
So also can you give a bit of tips on how you handle personals?
Yeah, personals, I think what how I handled personals were I had a few stories in mind that were primarily out of my work experience on some disagreements that happened, some challenges that we faced during our projects, and things like that. And I molded them into whatever question was asked. Suppose I have five stories in mind. One story that happened with an international team, one dispute I had with the vice president, one dispute I had with someone who was a bit junior to me. Uh, all those things I had in mind. Of course, I was working in a team. So I have a few stories handy and they fit into everything if they want instance based. But usually it's, as the name suggests, personal. Like, why do you want this or why do you want that? So why markets? So I told them I have studied it through my finance minor. I have worked at it remotely. That's why I want to work in the front end now. Middle office was a good taster for me, and I want to move into front office now. So that sort of an reasoning I built. So it's a good way if you build it linked to your CV in a way because that emphasizes it even more. And if you in your answer suggest that what you have done in the past is relevant, then the value of your CV also goes up. So the second time they look at your CV, it will be like, yeah, this whatever work you did here was valuable, rather than coming up with completely new answers. And then some confidence, some genuineness, and some like genuine interest towards the field would go a long way because markets specifically is not something that you would find a lot of people on campus are interested in compared to consulting and IB. So if you are able to convey genuine interest, that is already you have already made first cut. And beyond that, it's usually just have a few scenarios in your head ready that you've already faced that you can mold into something. And that usually helps.
Okay, thanks, Ronak. That was really insightful. Before we end today's session, do you mind giving any final tips or suggestions for PGP ones?
Yeah, so one thing should is I think that is told every year, but people still underestimate it. Personals are very, very, very important. You can have the best prep on financial technicalities, but it wouldn't fly at all if you don't clear the personals part. If you can't defend your CV, if you can't uh, find relevance in your CV to the role only for major roles, then you might struggle. So if you prepare for all the personals very well, that is actually 50% of your criteria. And actual finance knowledge only is the rest of the 50%. So every year, a few of our friends who are very well prepared uh, on finance part but haven't really given a thought on personals or are just nervous about it have a tough time. So do not do that. Be very well prepared on both personals and financial part. Uh, for markets, at least, do not be very hell bent on the details. If you have generally a good level of knowledge, it would help. And do not hyperfixate if you make mistakes in interviews. That happens. They understand it. Of course, they're hiring interns, not managers. So that is all fine. Uh, for finance specifically, as much as you can study, it will help. There is no upper limit to studying, especially for FinRoles. So keep on studying, keep on preparing for personals. Be very confident in the interviews. Emphasize your CV points that this was really good, and you'll be on the right side. Always answer calls, especially international ones, and it's fine to call them back if it doesn't happen. And do not worry about it too much if you don't get a call. A lot of the markets companies that had shortlisted me did not even call me. And some called me, I got an offer, some called me after I got an offer. So those timing issues keep happening. Uh, keep your sleep schedule in check. Uh, don't be sleeping at like 4 p.m. when someone might call you. So uh, keep all of these things in mind, just a good sanity of mind, because finance interviews are very unpredictable. Predictable. They will find one good candidates and the other 20 wouldn't know until they find it. So always stay in a good head state. Be awake during the day. Keep studying during the day. Be very confident. Prepare for personals, and you'll do well.
Cool. Thanks, Ronak. Thanks for taking all your time.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks a lot, guys, for having me.
Thanks. Bye.